This is Rene Arnold, MBA. She's Director for LSC Core, QEP, and Adjunct Faculty. She will be presenting Living Free from Distractions, Increase Your Productivity. And I'm going to go ahead and push record and hand it over to Rene.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So glad to have you. I see some familiar names in the chat. If you all wouldn't mind putting your where your location is, where you're coming from, campus, and what you do, so I kind of know who's in the room. Again, my name is Rene Arnold. I'm a director of LSC Core, which is our QEP Quality Enhancement Plan, and I also have the joy of being an adjunct faculty, teaching a variety of courses, human resources, first year experience, EDC 1300, and also workplace diversity. I actually have the pleasure of having worked with HeapCon before in the past, and I think it's an amazing conference. And so I'm happy to be here. I started as an adjunct and then went full time and worked for Lone Star for the professional development at Tomball, and was one of the on the founding committee for HeapCon. And so glad to see we have people from, oh my goodness, from Maryland and California, right? The farthest away. Hey, Justin, I see our fellow EDUC 1300. And so today I am going to share with you on living free from distractions and increasing your productivity. A distracted life. And I like to call them time snatchers. They can come in many forms. So start thinking about that. And then also let's understand the difference between priorities and procrastination. Maybe your life is just full of a lot of priorities and you're not really procrastinating, but I am going to challenge you on that. So let's explore the practical tips and tools to help eliminate distractions and improve productivity. Jennifer, give me 15 minutes at the end. Give me a 15-minute warning, okay?
Okay.
So I'll make sure I get through everything. One thing that I will be sharing with you is a lot of tools, and I will give you everything, a link to all the resources that I'm covering today. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to be honest and think about it. Are you a procrastinator? And I love this this little cartoon. I'm not a procrastinator. I just prefer to doing all my work in a deadline-induced panic. How many of those people do I have? Let's go and see. And this is my question to you. Are you a procrastinator? And use that code. Am I covering up the code? Use the QR code, menti.com, and put in the code, okay? All right, let's see, they're starting to come through. Okay, I want to know. Okay, who else? All right. If you didn't vote in here, because I got 37 people on here, so I want to see some more numbers. Okay, I'm coming back to you 4, all right? Oh, Perla, now I like that. A convenient procrastination. Okay, we're going to talk about that. All right, let's go back to the presentation. Okay. Oh, let me make sure I get my, yeah, I got it. So, you saw the young lady back there. She was just kind of sitting and chilling and, playing on her device. And then this gentleman here is at his desk, just staring off into the sky. Just, I don't know, is he thinking? What's going on? Have you ever been in that situation where you got a lot going on and you just pause and you don't know what direction to go in? Or you may be this person here who has a lot of work. In my former job, we used to tease me and my coworkers about our CEO. He didn't have priority 1, 2, and 3. He had priority 1A, 1B, and 1C. Everything was important. Everything was a priority. Has anybody ever, give me some thumbs up, anybody ever had those bosses or those situations where it's just a, complete, just being overwhelmed and a lot of priorities placed on you. And they're other people's priorities, not yours necessarily. So my disclaimer again, I am a work in progress. I am reforming because it is situation. Who said that? Convenient? Yeah, and Jennifer, that is the pose of feeling overwhelmed. I've been there. So I have this really short video I want you to watch. Tim Urban. Now, this is a longer video, and I want you all to watch the longer one. I'm going to give it to you. It's hilarious, but this is enough to give you an idea, and we don't have a lot of time for me to show the full video. So watch this for me, with me. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm going to do this, please. Hold on.
Anyone can use to improve vision, so you can say goodbye to your optometrist for good. Did you know that vision impairments have nothing to do with your eyes? The eyes are simply a...
So at college, I had to write papers. Now, when a normal student writes a paper, they might spread the work out a little like this. And I would want to do that, but then the paper would come along and I kind of do this. Now, I had a hypothesis that the brains of procrastinators were actually different than the brains of other people. And to test this, I found an MRI lab that actually let me scan both my brain and the brain of a proven non-procrastinator. And so I could compare them. So here's the brain of a non-procrastinator. Now, here's my brain. There is a difference. Both brains have a rational decision maker in them, but the procrastinator's brain also has an instant gratification monkey. Now, what does this mean for the procrastinator? Well, it means everything's fine until this happens. So the rational decision maker will make the rational decision to do something productive, but the monkey doesn't like that plan. So he actually takes the wheel and he says, actually, let's read the entire Wikipedia page of the Nancy Kerrigan-Tanya Harding scandal because I just remembered that happened. The instant gratification monkey does not seem like a guy you want behind the wheel. He lives entirely in the present moment. He has no memory of the past, no knowledge of the future, and he only cares about two things, easy and fun. Now, sometimes it makes sense to be doing things that are easy and fun, but other times it makes much more sense to be doing things that are harder and less pleasant for the sake of the big picture, and that's when we have a conflict. Turns out that the procrastinator has a guardian angel, someone called the panic monster. Now, the panic monster is dormant most of the time, but he suddenly wakes up anytime a deadline gets too close or there's danger of public embarrassment, a career disaster, or some other scary consequence. But there's a second kind of procrastination that happens in situations when there is no deadline. So if you want to have a career where you want to be a self-starter, something in the arts, something entrepreneurial, there's no deadlines on those things at first because nothing's happening at first, not until you've gone out and done the hard work to get some momentum, to get things going. There's also all kinds of important things outside of your career that don't involve any deadlines, like seeing your family or exercising and taking care of your health, working on your relationship or getting out of a relationship that isn't working. Now, if the procrastinator's only mechanism of doing these hard things is the panic monster, that's a problem because in all of these non-deadline situations, the panic monster doesn't show up. And it's this long-term kind of procrastination that's much less visible and much less talked about than the funnier short-term deadline-based kind. And it can be the source of a huge amount of long-term unhappiness and regrets. I had a little bit of an epiphany. I don't think non-procrastinators exist. That's right. I think all of you are procrastinators. Now, you might not all be a mess, like some of us. And some of you may have a healthy relationship with deadlines. But remember, the monkey's sneakiest trick is when the deadlines aren't there. And we need to think about what we're really procrastinating on, because everyone is procrastinating on something in life. That's a job for all of us. And it's a job that should probably start today. Well, maybe not today, but you know, sometime soon.
Is one of my favorite videos, and I'm going to come back to the presentation here. Reshare. y'all think about that? Are you really there? And when I this presentation, yes, I'm going to share tools with you all, but really what I want us to focus on is how we manage work, how we manage our bosses, how we manage our peers, our colleagues, how we manage life. COVID taught us, right, that there's a lot of things that are going on, right? You'll get the link full video, and it's hilarious. Okay, so I'm going to give you the link. So COVID showed us, that when we're cats and dogs and husbands and friends and all the different things, that on in our lives. And I think now we're all more sensible or sensitized to that, and have more respect for what people really have going on in their lives. And so what I really want you to think about is, whether or not you feel like you are a procrastinator, and what is it that's getting in your way. So we're going to talk real quick about priorities versus procrastination, what types of things you put off, and how to procrastinate. And I want to plan wherever you need it to be. This is about administrative professionals. So, as an administrative professional, you support someone or you support a team. You have a lot of people coming after you for things, but you also, again, have that private life that you're managing. So I want you to think about that as we go through this. So let's talk about prioritizing. You are prioritizing, for example, if someone puts unrealistic expectations on you. I'm going to give you an example of my life. As the director of a program, it is a system-wide initiative, and I've been in it for 2 years. And when I first started, I was a team of one. Now, I had support, but there's nothing like having a team where people are 100% dedicated. So I did this for 2 years, all 8 colleges. And for those of you that are not with Lone Star, we're a pretty large system. And so 8 sets of leadership, 8 sets of faculty, tutors, advisors, quit and prioritize. Well, in November, I finally got help. Yay. But during that time, I had to maneuver through prioritizing what needed to happen. And yes, there were unrealistic expectations that with the project of one person being able to handle it, but I did get help. And so in that time, I had to constantly reprioritize. The other reason that you might prioritize is if it's a healthy habit, like self-care, right? That is one of the things for me for 2024 is to focus on self-care, because guess what I do? I don't prioritize that. Anybody give me some thumbs up in the chat? Anybody out there that has that challenge as well, putting yourself first above everything else? So come on, let me see some chats. Yeah, tell me what are your challenges? The exercising, staying late at night, not giving yourself that quiet time. You got kids and you've got all the things going on. I'll move up. Is that better? And so you have things. Yeah, it's a definite challenge because it's our reality. I was talking to one of my friends last night. She has an elderly mother that she's caring for. She has a child. She has a husband. She works full time. She has a huge job. How many of you all are going through that? We're all at the age where we have relatives, or we have our family, right, or our parents. I have 2 I know of right now with parents that in their 80s that just had surgery, major surgeries, and are dealing with it. Yeah, work-life balance. Does that exist? I'm wondering. Let's talk about that. But then also are prioritizing and we reevaluate what our need is. And then there's good old life happens. Life happens and we get hit, blindsided, and then we have to reprioritize. Yeah. Jennifer, I'm going to send out everything, so that's fine. Don't worry, I've got everything set for you all.
All right.
Yeah, if prioritizing leads to like you're delaying the action for a logical reason, you need time. You need creativity. Maybe there is a paper you need to write. How many of you all know a novel that you're thinking about writing, or there's some project that you need to do, at work that really needs that requires you creativity and solutions. So you just got to build in that think time. But how do you do that at you from all sides? Maybe our resources, timing. It's just not the right time. I'll give an example. My goal when I graduated from college years ago was to work 3 years, go back, get my MBA. But guess what happened? A 14-year-old landed in my life. 24 years until I went and got my MBA. Now, that was a logical reason to put off getting my MBA. But guess what? Eventually, it hit me. Now, what's holding me back? There's never going to be a perfect time. So that's when I started procrastinating. And that's when I finally put my foot down and said, I'm going to do it. So 24 years later, I went back and got my MBA. And Justin said, I learned this quote at another conference, no such thing as work-life balance. Work is a part of life. The balance is within. Oh, I love that. I love that. Then there's time where we need physical, mental rest, and that's where that self-care comes in. And then there's potential changes that might occur. Somebody, chat me up on that. What do you think of that, what I just shared? That makes sense about prioritizing, because Justin, that goes to the balance, right? We have to balance all this. So if any of these things lead to prioritizing, then you're not a procrastinator, okay? So now I wanted to get into the psychology of procrastination, and I put the link down there, and you're going to get this slide deck, and these links, the links will be, you'll be able to hit the links. Deanna Dabara wrote this article for Poland, and she talks about different types of procrastination. Now, that first part, that's that arousal, the excitement of the last minute. You know, I like to work in an induced panic. Some people get that thrill, and I've heard the statement. How many of you all have said, I do my best when I'm, when I've got a deadline? I do my best. Anybody in there that's done that? And when you watch this video, Mervin, he goes into more about that, and it's hilarious. Avoidant, fears of failure or success. Okay, Lori, I see you. Avoidant, fear. That's something I want you to stop there. How many people have experienced, or maybe you someone who it just looks like they won't step into their purpose because it looks like they may be fearful of being successful, right? Then engaging in unproductive activities. Okay, when you're is that again, Tim Urban shares, he said it. Remember, we surfing the internet and doing everything, or we clean the house. All of a sudden, it's a great time to clean the house instead of working on that project that we need to do. And then impulsivity related, meaning immediate gratification over long-term benefits. We give up and we just go out with our friends. We're done. And so the last one I want to cover, and this is where I'm going to focus, is this distraction. Prominent, difficulty staying on task. I have so many people coming at me, and then everything becomes a priority. And what I have to learn how to do is out that noise, right? Who's good at that? Anybody in the chat on here that's good at drowning out the noise of distractions? Okay, you can stay on task. You give me one person to tell me how you do it. Anybody brave?
Rene, I can bring out some examples as a coordinator, multitasking. I know you probably do this as a director. Sometimes us blocking time on our calendar and shutting that door to our office just to block out, people come and phone calls. We have to block time on our calendar to, especially if we're doing a report or something that we turn in. That could be an example.
Yes, I mentally make myself, and guess what? To my new coordinator, who is just a godsend. You've met her, Raquel Arsenault, and she, before I even asked, she started blocking out time on my calendar to help me out. So we got to have help too, right? Because many people. Now I'm blocking out time now for something I have due a month out. I'm building in that time to prepare. But here's the problem. Even though I block out that time, you got to stick to it, right? Because those distractions, right? So when we talk about another thing is why do we procrastinate? I want to kind of go back. Is that maybe it's something we don't like doing it. Okay, reports. I do not like doing reports. So all those, they keep getting put back at the back burner. I'm in the game. And so I'm a Clifton strengths coach, and I really love my strengths. And I'm an executor. My strengths are, my number one is a ranger. So I'm all in the action. But then you want me to come back, after it's all over, we gotta close out. That's where I need a team to help me. All right, let's debrief. Let's find out. Let's close out these reports before we move on to the next. So again, think about things that you despise. Yes, now your time in your calendar, because you do it for the executives, right? You do it for others. So now we have to do things. And then Cynthia, I missed your thing. You said since the pandemic, now noise bothers you. Right. So our confidence, when it's something that we don't feel like we're good at, what is that? Imposter syndrome? That may paralyze us from doing something. And again, I mentioned being distracted. That is being overwhelmed. You have so much coming at you. I'll shut down and you just stop. It's like, okay, already began. And so we're going to talk about that. And when you get creatively blocked because of that noise, because you have so many things coming on, then you end up getting blocked. One task that I suggest is that you look at tasks that you delay and tasks that you do. Maybe do a self-analysis and say, hey, these are the things that I like to do and delay, and these are the things that I do. That way you can kind of get a feel for it, because I'm going to share some other tips with you that have been given by some experts on, how to deal with those things. I know what I delay, what I don't like to do, and these are things that I like to do. So how do you manage that? Let's go on here to start today. How about that? Choose. That's one of the things I've learned is about I chunk things. I have learned how to, I look like I'm all over the place, but when I'm to myself and get that quiet time, I chunk everything and I write it down and I make sure that I am focusing on what my priorities are. And then there's things that constantly have to get reprioritized because something comes up. I'm in the middle of getting ready and then I get an email saying one of my executive needs a report today. And I'm like, okay, all right. Can I give it to him tomorrow? Because I'm on my way to my meeting today. Yes, you can do that. But look how I asked for time, right? So we've got to start being a little more assertive and ask for that time. Maybe sit down with your boss and say, this is what I need. This is what I'm doing. And this is what I need in order for me to stay on task. Okay. Then identify why you're stalling. Again, go back to that list and then select a strategy to talk. Now, those are some top level, and I'm going to get into some more. But here's the thing I want to ask you. I want you to think about those distractions. I want you to think about time snatchers. Okay. I'm going to show you another quick video that is one of my favorite. And it's just real quick and it's going to make you think. Here we go. I've got to change screens again. Stop sharing. Oh, I lost my.
Rene, while you're connected to that, I did want to mention a comment that someone made, Angela Nava, in the comment. She said, I mentally make myself. I pep talk myself and reward myself with something. And that brought up on Valentine's Day, my kids actually put sayings all over the mirror in my restroom. So when I wake up or when I go to the restroom, it's like, Mom, you are blessed. Mom, you are great. That is a great comment, Angela. Now, because we have to pep ourselves up, Rene.
We do.
Yes.
We do.
So we got to talk to ourselves. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And
Yeah.
that's part of that self-care. Thank you, Natalie. Angela, for sharing that, and also Jennifer for pointing that out, because again, we don't do it enough. Right? So watch this video, and I wanted to make you think, okay? Watch this video.
Renee, I just want to mention your 15-minute mark. Sorry.
Remember, every day is a gift, right? Like that, especially he is so right. Every I don't know why it's doing this. There's always time for a chocolate. Would you all think about that? Awesome, we got an awesome. I love this video because it really makes you think. How many times do we get caught up in the small stuff? And you saw where we went. Imagine if you took that jar and again, you see filling up that sand. There's no way golf balls are getting in there. There's no way, the pebbles or anything else is going to get in there. And you know what? I have an example for me, and I want someone else to share out. For me, I think back, I was impacted by Hurricane Katrina. I lived in New Orleans. My husband and I left for a 2-week vacation. Life was great. It was never intended to go to New Orleans. It was in Florida. The next thing we knew, I never returned to New Orleans. My job was both our jobs were impacted. Our home was fine, but we had to relocate overnight to Atlanta. Now, I can't tell you what major project I was working on at work. I can't tell you the things that were stressing me out because after that major event happened, everything went out the door. So what does that say about all those things, that those work hours I was putting in and all those things? Doesn't it have you all ever had anything happen that made you reevaluate and realize you're spending way too much time with things that don't matter? Anybody? Tell me what your time snatchers are. What are the things that are your sand? what's going on? Because this is where we are in that when we're trying to put this work, and Justin said we are balancing everything that we have going on, we have to put ourselves first. Because if any of us leave our job for whatever reason, they will feel it. Okay, as wonderful as we all are, I think I'm great. Delisa, Delsa, your children, right? Or is it Delisa? I'm sorry, your children. Yes, the death of a loved one. Yeah, yeah. It could be anything that can snatch us. But one of the things I focused on was that sand. I took sand out. I started setting boundaries. I started prioritizing. So go ahead and chat me up. What are some of your time snatchers? We're not going to do, I'm not going to do the Menti because I'm going to run out of time. Go ahead and just chat it up what your time snatchers are. So I want to ask you all a question. Remember I asked about those procrastinators? Oh, TP Queenie, yes. They're time snatchers. But what about those situations, social media? Netflix always ends up on here. With binge watching, right? We get caught up, especially with our students. They give us all those things that happen. You know, it's that. Have you ever been in a situation where your family calls on you? You always put your job first, and when you lost the yes, you realize that you didn't have enough time with that loved one because you're working. I have a friend now who has an extremely hard job in corporate, and that happened to her. And she is now dealing with the guilt that, because her dad died, went to it, took care of everything, and then came right back and went to work. Didn't even take her bereavement days. And now guess what? She said enough is enough, and she's taking FMLA, and she's getting herself together, and her whole perspective on life has changed. So we've got to stop and do it before something happens, right? But managing our time so we can be more productive at work, give our employer and our team members everything we have that's realistic, right? So now I want to look at you prioritizing family, finances, and all that, your long-term goals. Remember that delaying action is for logical reason, or my non-procrastinators. Anybody have anything that they've been putting off? Remember, I talked about going back to school. Anybody thinking about starting a business? Anybody, how about those of us, and I'm talking to myself, that give up working out, taking that time out? Every time I set a schedule to work out, something major happens, right? Legitimate reason that I can't go do it. I've got to finish this project. Oh, Lori, I remember that. Yes, I remember that. And it made you reevaluate, didn't it? And the blessing was all your family, look, if you go back to that jar, all your golf balls were saved, weren't they? Right? And that's the blessing. And so I want to challenge my non-procrastinators to think about anything that you're putting off for the long term. Remember the panic monster? For those of us that live with that panic monster, there's the ones that might be putting something and procrastinating on that the panic monster is not going to come because there's no deadline. So reality check, what's in your jar? Look at those time snatchers or distractions. Know your strengths. Life gets in the way. The best laid plans can change, right? So you need to own your time, set boundaries, goals. Health is wealth. I like that. Now, what's next? Let's look at some tools. And listen, I'm going to give you all of these things, and I'm going to go through this. I have 9 minutes, so I'm going to go through it. Anybody that has a question or anything you want to share out, please go ahead and unmute. I'm going to go into this last circle here. And there's like a wheel that's prioritizing, planning, this controlling. This is where the boundaries come in. This is where we take our stance on self-care and we learn how to be more efficient because everything can't be done. There's no extra hours out of the 24 hours. I set alerts. I use reminders. I use everything to help me stay on track. So again, this wheel is a constant, and we have to constantly fight for our time, and we have to set those boundaries and be in charge. Now, This here, you're going to get this link, and I want to, it is actually the best link I found that has, I want you all, your homework assignment is to go to this link, and I'm going to share it with you. You're going to get it. And I want you to, I'm going to go over it real quick. And it gives you some tips on managing your energy, not just your time. It talks about the ultradian rhythms, okay? And it talks about our clock and how we work, how our brain and how our body works, and that it's not intended for us to work long stretches, that we should be taking those breaks. And there's a book I have in the resources I'm going to give you that talks about a 90-minute time period. And this also supports that. Then there's your biological time. So know when you have your most energy. If it's in the morning, evening. For me to work out, it has to be in the morning. I'm worthless at the end of the day. And then you have to work more effectively. Build a better to-do list. Now, there is in this, it's called the Eisenhower approach. There's 3 different types of to-do lists that's in this link, and it's called the Eisenhower approach. And it gives you a really practical way to align your to-do list. It's really great. So take a look at that. Tune out distractions. Focus on getting one thing done at a time. You can't do it all. Also, the myth of multitasking. Our brains were not made to that. I used to brag about being a multitasker. Guess what? Not necessarily a good thing. So batch your tasks. Remember I talked about chunking or batching your task. And then we have to prioritize our health. Take a break. I'm working on getting up and walking throughout the day when I'm at work. A lot of people now are getting those stand-up desks where you can move it. I'm actually sitting at one now. Refine your workspace, make it yours, make it comfortable, make it pleasant, and make it ergonomic so that it's comfortable. You have everything you're needing. Sometimes we have to change our scenery, get up and walk around. Maybe you might go, if you're working on reading a project, or doing something that you might be able to get up and go. When I was in grad school, I went to the library and I just went to different places where I could find a space. And then finally, I need some people in the chat. Who are our people that are perfect? Who are the perfect people that get caught up on making everything perfect and it paralyzes you? Or you analyze and you're trying to make everything perfect so you get caught up. Can I get some chat? Anybody in there? Elizabeth. So name your tools. We're not going to do that, but I want to share with you some of the things that I do. If it is not on my calendar, it does not exist. I use Google Calendar, so all of my Outlook. You're recovering, Angela? Oh, when you're working on a presentation, well, Martha, let me just say this. I'm going to self-disclose. Where do you think I was last night, right? Okay, so Google Calendar, I have all of my calendars into one. And then this one here, Aaron's, oh my gosh, I'm giving you the links to all these. It is a saver. It is where I put, once it's on my calendar, I then put it on an errands and it sends off reminders for me throughout the day. Even if I have a doctor's appointment, how about us getting our mammograms? Guess what? I put it on my errands and on my calendar a year ago, so I won't miss it, right? Those are the things that we need to do. We're all using Microsoft Teams for this conference. We're using WebEx, Microsoft Teams. How many of you all use that? Anybody using Microsoft Teams? I know we're growing more and more, especially since COVID. It's a place to collaborate, save files, schedule. And then Padlet. I'm going to introduce you to Padlet. It's my friend. It's how I organize my thoughts. It's what I do in putting things together. And it's also a tool that I'm going to share with you for all the resources for this presentation. So remember we talked about how you need to chunk your time and how you have, they have this tool, Pomodoro is a focus timer, right? And all 3 of these apps are focus timers. Be focused, stay focused. So Pomodoro and the Be Focused one, they actually have you chunk your time so that you set a timer and you commit to turning off everything so that you can just work for 25 minutes at a time or whatever time you set. Your commitment is you'll keep doing it. Stay focused goes farther, and it blocks your time. It blocks sites and apps. And guess what it does? It even has backups. So one of the things that it's called I forget what it is. Once it blocks the site for you, you set this up. If you try to go to that site, it makes you type a paragraph in order to get to that site because it's preventing you from breaking your own rules. So those are some tools on that. And so final tips: organization leads to success. Prioritize and set those boundaries. The boundaries are so important. Set realistic and achievable goals. Find simple and comfortable tools that fit your style. Okay, what works for you? Avoid procrastination. Admit when it's happening and face it. Stay focused. And when life happens, don't give up and get back on track. Okay, so that's my challenge to you all. And this is something that I like to say is, if it does not evolve you, then it should not involve you, right? So if you're doing something for someone else and everybody else is pulling on you, if you're in something that really isn't something you want to do, that's where those boundaries come in. And you need to kind of step back and say, you know what, enough is enough. This is where I'm going to focus on, and I'm going to take control. So this is the Padlet resource link. And I want you all to go to that. And